Dense mist drifts low over the forest floor, clinging to moss-laden roots and the soft mulch of decaying leaves. The canopy above filters the morning light into shifting green fragments, and the jungle is alive with subtle movement. A monkey rustles in the upper branches, a chorus of frogs resonates near a distant stream, and insects buzz invisibly through the air. Somewhere amid this layered wilderness, a shadow moves without a sound. The jaguar, Panthera onca, slips through the underbrush like water sliding over stone. It is neither hurried nor hesitant. Each movement is calculated, muscles coiling and uncoiling in silence beneath a rosette-covered pelt. There is no scent trail, no rustle of foliage to betray its presence. This is not a chase. This is a patient unraveling of the hunt. Unlike cheetahs or wolves that rely on pursuit, the jaguar is a predator built for ambush. Shorter and stockier than its cousin the leopard, it is power condensed into a frame of quiet brutality. It favors dense forest not simply for concealment, but for the vertical complexity of its terrain. Prey here isn't limited to the forest floor. It moves in 3 dimensions. Sloths, monkeys, peccaries, armadillos, and even caimans pass through this layered world, never entirely safe, never truly out of reach. A juvenile capybara grazes near the water's edge, oblivious to the pair of eyes watching from a tangle of ferns. The jaguar lowers its body further, nearly melting into the foliage. This is a predator that doesn't need to see its target for long. One glimpse, one flicker of movement, and it maps every angle of the terrain between itself and the kill. The capybara is larger than it seems at a glance, nearly the size of a small pig. But to a jaguar this is manageable. In fact, its jaws are strong enough to crush the skull of prey with a single bite, a method it often uses on armored reptiles like turtles or even caimans, biting through bone where other cats would aim for the throat. The ambush begins not with movement, but with the absence of hesitation. The jaguar launches forward in a sudden fluid motion, closing the distance in near silence. It bounds twice before the capybara senses the danger, and by the time the rodent pivots to flee, it's already too late. With 4 limbs outstretched and claws unsheathed, the jaguar hits with crushing force, driving its weight down onto the capybara's back. A single bite to the base of the skull ends it almost instantly. There is no drawn-out struggle, no theatrical battle, just the soft thud of bodies meeting the earth and then stillness. The kill site becomes a temporary shelter. Jaguars are not social cats. They do not share their meals, and they rarely linger in one place for long, but they are opportunists. This jaguar, like many in its territory, will cache the kill under brush or drag it to denser cover. It may return to feed over several days, patrolling the nearby trails and watering holes as it digests. What sets the jaguar apart in the ecological theater of the Amazon is not merely its strength or silence, but its versatility. While many predators specialize in particular types of prey, the jaguar is a generalist with a taste for the unusual. It is one of the few big cats known to swim regularly, and it often hunts in and around water. Fish, turtles, even young anacondas fall within its reach. It uses its teeth not only to kill, but to pry open shells and scales that most other predators avoid. In dry season, when water pools shrink and riverbanks crack, it walks these margins, scanning for trapped aquatic prey, its powerful chest and shoulders easily navigating mud and current. The skull structure of the jaguar reveals more about its predatory habits than behavior alone. Its bite force, relative to body size, is the strongest of any big cat. This anatomical adaptation allows it to employ a killing technique that differs fundamentally from that of lions or tigers. Instead of targeting the throat to suffocate, the jaguar drives its canines between the ears or directly through the temporal bones of the skull. This technique is not only more efficient for killing smaller prey, but is also essential when facing hard-shelled or armored animals, a common trait among many Amazonian species. Territorial by nature, jaguars roam widely, but leave behind unmistakable signs for rivals. Scent marking, scraping, and vocalizations help them avoid unnecessary conflicts in a landscape where visibility is limited but competition remains high. Male ranges often overlap with those of several females, but male-to-male encounters are avoided when possible. In the rare event that two jaguars clash, the confrontation is brief and decisive. Camera traps across the Amazon basin have revealed previously hidden aspects of jaguar behavior. Some individuals have been recorded hunting during broad daylight, particularly in regions where human activity is minimal. Others exhibit nocturnal habits, taking advantage of thermal gradients and the cover of darkness to approach watering sites. Variation in activity patterns shows the species' behavioral flexibility, a key factor in its survival across diverse Amazonian habitats, from flooded Varzea forests to dry upland terra firme. Still, the jaguar is not invincible. Habitat fragmentation, poaching, and human encroachment have reduced its range across much of South and Central America. Even in the heart of the Amazon, its stronghold, roads, and development pose increasing threats. As apex predators, jaguars regulate the balance of herbivores and smaller carnivores. Their absence can lead to cascading ecological shifts, a truth confirmed by both indigenous knowledge and modern conservation studies. But here, in this quiet stretch of forest where the canopy stretches unbroken and the rivers still flood with the rhythm of ancient seasons, the jaguar reigns as it always has. Silent, precise, and deeply woven into the fabric of the forest, it is not the most visible hunter. It does not roar its presence or announce its dominance. Instead, it moves through shadows, shaping the ecosystem with every calculated step. Not through spectacle, but through mastery. The forest floor is a place of concealment, where light seldom touches the earth without being fractured by layers of leaves, branches, and the shifting movements of insects. Here, every fallen leaf could be shelter or camouflage, and every stillness could be deception. It is in this muted underlayer of the rainforest, where sound is dampened and vision blurred, that the bushmaster snake lies hidden. Coiled beneath a shallow drift of dead foliage, it becomes a seamless part of the earth, invisible until it's already too late. Lachesis muta, the South American bushmaster, is the largest pit viper in the Western Hemisphere, sometimes exceeding 3 meters in length. It does not rely on speed or pursuit. Its hunting strategy is rooted in stillness, not the idleness of inactivity, but a purposeful, tensioned stillness honed by evolution to lethal precision. This snake hunts by ambush, burying itself in the underbrush near known rodent trails, frog paths, or wherever the scent of warm-blooded animals intersects with opportunity. Its sensory pits, heat-detecting organs positioned between its eyes and nostrils, allow it to map infrared outlines in complete darkness, detecting the warmth of prey as accurately as sight in daylight. The forest around it may bustle with the movements of agoutis, opossums, or ground-dwelling birds like tinamous, but the bushmaster does not flinch. Its scales, rough and earthy, disrupt its silhouette among the litter. Even its breathing is shallow, measured. A passerby could walk within inches and never know it had trespassed the edge of danger. Unlike the jaguar, which dominates through visible presence and kinetic violence, the bushmaster thrives through disappearance. You won't see it coil, you won't hear it strike. And when it moves again, it leaves only a slight indentation in the soil to mark its presence. The strike itself is a sudden, almost mechanical event, a burst of energy released from stillness. When prey draws close enough, the bushmaster lashes forward with terrifying speed, its long, hollow fangs delivering a potent injection of venom. Unlike some vipers that bite and release to avoid injury, the bushmaster often holds its prey, its body following the strike to quickly anchor and subdue the animal. The venom acts fast, containing both hemotoxic and proteolytic agents that damage tissues, disrupt blood flow, and begin digesting flesh from within. The prey rarely makes it more than a few steps before collapsing. systems already unraveling from the inside. One of the bushmaster's most curious characteristics is its tail, tipped with a horny spine that some researchers believe may be used in subtle luring behavior. Juvenile bushmasters have been observed twitching this tail tip in short, insect-like motions, potentially attracting frogs or curious rodents into striking range. It's a tactic not widely documented in adult snakes, but in the ever-adaptable ecosystem of the Amazon, behaviors are rarely universal or consistent across regions. Flexibility often means survival. Despite its size and deadliness, the bushmaster is a surprisingly elusive species. It avoids human contact with a tenacity that mirrors its reluctance to waste venom. Encounters are rare, and bites even rarer, typically involving those who unknowingly step on or too close to a concealed individual. The snake's demeanor is famously reserved, in stark contrast to the aggressive reputation of its North American relative, the rattlesnake. There is no audible warning here, no hiss or threat posture. The bushmaster depends on being overlooked and is typically reluctant to expend energy unless absolutely necessary. When threatened, it may vibrate its tail against dry leaves in a mimic of the rattlesnake's warning, but this gesture is often subtle, barely audible beyond a few feet. Its reproductive strategy also reflects its solitary, secretive nature. Unlike most pit vipers, the bushmaster is oviparous, laying eggs rather than giving birth to live young. A female will lay a clutch in a concealed, humid area and may guard the site until hatching, a relatively rare behavior among snakes, and one that has intrigued herpetologists. The eggs take weeks to incubate, and upon hatching, the neonates emerge fully capable of envenomation, equipped with a full dose of their species' chemical weaponry. In the dense forests of the Amazon, predators are constantly measured by how much they disturb their surroundings. Jaguars disrupt the canopy as they leap. Harpy eagles tear branches in flight. But the bushmaster leaves the ecosystem seemingly untouched. Its prey vanishes quietly. Its presence is a footnote only to those who know where and how to look. In this way, it plays a unique ecological role. As a mid to apex predator, it regulates populations of small mammals and amphibians that would otherwise overwhelm certain niches. The snake's hunting patterns also distribute fear through the forest floor, a kind of invisible influence that subtly shapes animal behavior across its range. It's easy to assume that such a snake would dominate its layer of the ecosystem unchallenged, but the Amazon rarely allows for uninterrupted supremacy. Bushmasters themselves fall prey to large birds of prey, such as crested eagles or even opportunistic mammals like tyras. Fire ants may swarm their eggs. Diseases and parasites pose invisible but constant threats. The rainforest, though vast, is densely populated with danger at every level, and no predator, no matter how well adapted, is ever immune to risk. From a conservation perspective, the bushmaster is increasingly vulnerable to habitat loss. Logging and land conversion fragment the corridors it needs for hunting and breeding. Because of its elusive nature and low population densities, it is poorly studied compared to more visible or charismatic species. This invisibility, while evolutionary armor in the jungle, becomes a liability in the world of conservation planning and habitat protection. What we do not see, we often do not protect. Yet, for those who study it, the bushmaster remains a creature of deep fascination, not because of its danger, but because of its discipline. It is a predator that wastes nothing. It spends more time hiding than feeding, more time waiting than striking. Its strength lies not in brute aggression, but in absolute control of energy, space, and timing. It does not intimidate, it endures. And in doing so, it continues to thrive in pockets of forest where few humans ever tread. Here in the underworld of the Amazon, the dim, damp, decomposing stratum of roots and shadow, the bushmaster holds its ground. Not by roaring or running or even moving at all, but by embodying the still, cold patience of the forest itself. And while many predators announce themselves with speed or spectacle, the bushmaster remains what it has always been, a silent equation of heat, timing, and precision, lethal, deliberate, and nearly invisible. The canopy of the Amazon is a world apart from the shadowed forest floor. Sunlight filters down in shifting mosaics of gold and green, broken by thick limbs twisted with vines and bromeliads. Here, life moves in subtle rhythms. Howler monkeys vocalize over long distances, sloths inch from one branch to another with unhurried persistence, and parrots chatter in sharp bursts that echo across the treetops. But above all this motion, nearly silent and unseen, the harpy eagle waits. Perched motionless on a towering kapok branch, the adult female, larger than most hawks and even many vultures, blends into the network of branches and sky. With slate-grey feathers on her back, a pale underside, and a crown of dark feathers flattened low against her skull, she is perfectly designed to vanish into vertical stillness. At first glance, she seems like just another broken limb or dark outgrowth of bark. This illusion is not accidental. The harpy eagle does not soar for long stretches like condors or kites. It hunts with strategy, patience, and explosive precision, an apex predator not of open skies, but of dense jungle airspace. The harpy eagle's domain is not about speed in flight, but about control in close quarters. This is a raptor designed for maneuverability in tight environments. With wings shorter and broader than those of most eagles, it can slip between tree trunks and branches without losing altitude or orientation. Its talons, thicker than a grizzly bear's claws and as long as a human hand, are built to crush, not merely grasp. Each toe ends in a curved dagger of keratin capable of exerting over 500 pounds of pressure. When she descends, she doesn't merely catch her prey, she immobilizes it with a blow that leaves no opportunity for escape. Below her perch, a troop of capuchin monkeys navigates the upper branches, foraging for fruit and insects with cautious, alert movements. They pause occasionally to scan the canopy, listening for rustling leaves or wing beats that would betray a predator. Yet in this moment there is only stillness above, a moment that stretches deceptively long. The eagle shifts slightly, weight balancing from one scaled foot to another. She has been watching them for minutes, perhaps longer, analyzing the path of the group and selecting her target. Younger monkeys often stray, slower or less attentive than the adults. She waits for the misstep. When it happens, the shift from waiting to action is almost imperceptible. She drops from the branch with wings outstretched, not to soar, but to steer. The dive is not steep nor loud. It is short, violent, and precise. In a burst of air and motion, she pierces the space between leaves and lands with a crashing jolt on a thick limb just beneath the monkeys. Her talons drive into a juvenile before it can leap away. There is no second strike, no aerial pursuit. One blow, one capture. She flaps once, twice, and is gone, vanishing into the layered forest before the rest of the troop can organize a scream. Harpy eagles do not hunt frequently. Their success rate is high and their prey substantial. A single kill may last several days depending on size and availability. They cache prey on branches or in tree hollows, sometimes returning over multiple meals. Unlike scavengers, they consume only fresh kills, beginning with the head and vital organs before working their way to limbs and skin. Their digestive system is remarkably efficient, processing tough animal protein with ease. Pellet regurgitation expels indigestible materials like fur and bone fragments in dense, compact clumps. Nest sites, often located in emergent trees more than 40 meters above the forest floor, offer another glimpse into the harpy's life cycle. Pairs mate for life and defend their territory fiercely, especially during nesting seasons. The nest itself can reach 2 meters across and is reused year after year, maintained with fresh greenery that may offer antimicrobial protection to the chick. These birds reproduce slowly, typically raising one chick every 2 to 3 years. The young remain dependent for many months, learning to fly, hunt and navigate through the vertical labyrinth of the jungle. This slow reproductive rate makes them especially vulnerable to population declines from habitat loss and hunting. Despite its role as a dominant aerial predator, the harpy eagle exists on a fragile threshold in the modern Amazon. Its size and dietary needs demand vast, unbroken stretches of forest. Where logging and development have carved roads and clearings, the eagles retreat or vanish. Their rarity is not due to biological inefficiency, but to a shrinking world that no longer supports large, territorial carnivores with long development cycles. In regions where they are still seen, indigenous communities often revere them, recognizing their ecological role not through formal studies, but through generations of shared observation. In these traditions, the harpy is a creature of balance, not fear, a regulator, not a menace. Though its name evokes aggression, the harpy eagle is not reckless. It selects its battles carefully. While monkeys are a common target, sloths are also favored prey, particularly the slower-moving three-toed species. Sloths, though seemingly helpless, can present challenges. Their dense muscle mass, sharp claws, and unpredictable twisting movements during capture make them formidable in the split second of attack. But the eagle's grip is overwhelming and its aim precise. Even arboreal porcupines, whose quills deter most predators, are not immune to the harpy's crushing strike. One of the more surprising behaviors observed in recent studies is the eagle's ability to recall specific areas within its territory where prey concentrations are consistently high. Rather than hunting randomly, it may revisit particular groves or foraging trees, much like a terrestrial predator might monitor a watering hole. This pattern recognition reveals a level of cognitive mapping and memory not often attributed to birds of prey. Harpy eagles do not just fly, they survey, calculate, and adjust. Sound in their world is both a tool and a threat. While their approach is silent, their calls are loud and piercing, a series of high-pitched whistles that echo through the treetops. These vocalizations serve as territory markers, mate communication, and occasional warnings. But when hunting, they say nothing. Their approach is defined by silence, their impact by shock. In the broader ecological web, the harpy eagle plays an irreplaceable role. By controlling populations of arboreal mammals, it helps maintain the balance of fruit-bearing trees, many of which rely on seed dispersal by animals like monkeys. Predation pressure shapes these behaviors and, by extension, the distribution and regeneration of plant life in the canopy. It is a predator that indirectly sustains the very system it preys upon. Another paradox in the endlessly complex engine of the Amazon. Nowhere else does a bird so embody the contradiction of power and silence, of grace and destruction, as the harpy eagle. It is not a creature of grand spectacle or endless flight, but of sudden judgment, a shadow that falls from above when least expected. It needs no camouflage beyond its stillness, no speed beyond its accuracy. In the vaulted cathedral of trees, where wind is filtered and movement muted, it remains unseen until the moment of consequence. And when the forest quiets again, it is not because the harpy has left, but because it has already done what it came to do. In the humid underworld of the Amazon rainforest, where roots form a tangled lattice above the soil and the scent of decay is constant, something ancient stirs beneath the surface of the ordinary. It begins without announcement. No roar, no cry, no sudden shift in light, only a ripple in the detritus, a pulse of motion, synchronized and relentless, coursing over leaf litter and around stones. At first, the movement appears localized, but within minutes, the illusion of stillness disintegrates. The forest floor is crawling, not with scattered foragers, but with a singular, coordinated force. The column of Essiton burchelli, the army ants, has begun its march. There is no queen at the front of this procession, no dominant figure giving orders. And yet tens of thousands of individuals move with an eerie collective will, flowing like liquid over terrain, navigating routes, slopes, and obstacles with ease. This is not chaos. This is organization at a scale too fine for the eye to immediately pass. The foragers form a living trail bordered by worker ants that act as temporary sentries, redirecting any deviation and absorbing stragglers. At the center, larger soldier ants with oversized mandibles move methodically, prepared to defend the column against any threat, be it lizard, beetle, or an incautious human foot. Unlike many ant species that rely on fixed nests, army ants are nomadic, their colonies perpetually shifting between phases of movement and rest. The raid phase, like the one unfolding now, can last weeks, during which time the entire colony becomes a roving superorganism. At its peak, a single colony may contain over 500,000 individuals, each playing a specialized role, all guided by chemical signals, pheromone trails laid down second by second, shaping the flow of bodies like invisible roads on the forest floor. As the ants advance, the forest reacts. Crickets take wing in erratic spirals, frogs leap from underbrush to higher ground, and a tarantula, sensing vibrations through its leg hairs, retreats into a shallow burrow, though it may not be deep enough. The swarm does not hunt by sight or stealth. It overwhelms. Prey is located by scent and vibration, seized by dozens of jaws in coordinated frenzy, and torn apart within seconds. In one corner of the advancing wave, a juvenile lizard attempts to scramble free, its tiny claws scrabbling on damp bark. But the ants are faster. They ascend its legs in tight spirals, anchoring its limbs before slicing into joints and eyes. It does not scream. It does not escape. By the time the rear of the swarm passes, there is nothing left but bone fragments and slivers of skin. Their diet is not limited to the weak or slow. Nestlings, scorpions, millipedes, and venomous spiders, nothing is off limits. Even predator species must yield before the swarm. The sheer number of attackers allows army ants to kill prey many times their individual size. Small mammals, if caught in sleep or distraction, may be partially devoured before waking. But it is not only death they bring. Their presence transforms the ecosystem temporarily, drawing in a host of other species that follow the swarm not to flee, but to feed. Birds such as antbirds, woodcreepers, and motmots have evolved a relationship with army ants that borders on opportunism. As the ants flush insects and other invertebrates from hiding, these birds swoop in to catch what escapes the jaws of the colony. This behavior is so finely attuned that some birds are known to track the daily movement of specific swarms, shadowing them like satellites, capitalizing on the chaos while never getting too close. The ants tolerate this, indifferent to the scavengers as long as they remain peripheral. The temporary bivouac of the colony, the living nest, forms when the raid slows for the night. In a hidden crevice or beneath a root tangle, worker ants link their legs and bodies together to create a living structure. Within this woven mass, the queen rests, attended by a specialized caste. She is rarely seen during raids, but she is the source of the colony's continuity, laying thousands of eggs during the stationary phase. Here, the swarm breathes. It doesn't sleep in the traditional sense, but enters a collective rhythm of slowed movement, only to resume again by morning. The bivouac is built and dismantled daily, a pulsing heart made not of stone or leaves, but of the very bodies of its inhabitants. Army ants differ sharply from many of their relatives in behavior and organization. Unlike leafcutter ants that cultivate fungus or carpenter ants that carve homes into deadwood, Eciton burchelli leaves no trace of its presence when the swarm moves on. There are no permanent tunnels, no architectural marvels etched into the soil. Their legacy is momentary. The silence after a raid, the scent of formic acid, the sudden emptiness where once insects moved freely. They consume without accumulating, build without materials, and kill without memory. Despite their blind, decentralized nature, the colony adapts quickly to changing terrain. When encountering gaps or rough surfaces, workers form living bridges with their bodies, allowing others to cross. These structures adjust dynamically, expanding or contracting as needed, sometimes lasting minutes, other times enduring for hours. No command is given. Feedback from the flow of traffic determines when an individual ant joins or detaches from the bridge. It is an algorithm encoded in evolution, not intellect, a kind of emergent intelligence arising from millions of simple interactions. Though formidable, army ants are not invulnerable. Heavy rains can drown swarms. Fire ant incursions may challenge them. And parasitic flies, especially the phorid fly, lay eggs on the marching ants, whose larvae consume the hosts from within. Predators too exist even for the swarm. Some toads, snakes and spiders specialize in feeding on army ants, often hiding at the flanks or ambushing individuals that stray from the column. Yet even these threats are marginal. The swarm continues, indifferent, overwhelming more than it ever loses. From a distance the forest seems undisturbed, but draw closer and the illusion shatters. The forest floor ripples. The soil appears to flow. Life flees not from a visible predator, but from a presence defined by numbers, heat, and scent. Where a jaguar stalks in silence, the army ant surges in thunderous accumulation. Their power lies not in stealth or singular strength, but in the impossibility of resistance. A creature too small to threaten anything alone, multiplied by hundreds of thousands, becomes an unstoppable force, one that leaves nothing intact but the earth itself. In the backwater lagoons and slow-moving tributaries of the Amazon basin, where tangled tree roots sink into dark silt and lily pads drift in mirrored silence, an unseen current pulses beneath the surface. The water here is thick with life. Armored catfish grazing on the riverbed, electric eels sensing movement through electric fields, caimans resting beneath overhangs like submerged logs. Yet in these murky depths, the apex predator is not cold-blooded, armored, or solitary. It is warm-blooded, social, and relentlessly coordinated. The Amazonian giant otter, Pteronura brasiliensis, moves like a spear through the current, its sleek body a perfect compromise between speed and flexibility. But it is never alone. The hunt is a family affair. A ripple breaks the glassy surface near a sandbank, then another. Heads emerge, 5, maybe 6, each with round ears, wide-set eyes, and dense water-repellent fur that shines in the morning light. Their vocalizations crackle through the air like a symphony of whistles, trills, and staccato barks, each call carrying distinct meaning among the group. These are not incidental sounds. They are deliberate, structured signals, locational cues, warnings, commands, and confirmations. Giant otters, among the most vocal of all carnivores, use complex acoustic communication to synchronize hunting strategies and reinforce group cohesion. In an ecosystem dominated by the solitary and the stealthy, they are an anomaly. Cooperative carnivores in a realm where partnership often means competition. Their territory spans several kilometers of river, patrolled and scent-marked with anal gland secretions along logs and banks. Trespassers, especially rival otter groups, are met with loud choruses and occasionally direct confrontation. But within the group, typically composed of a monogamous pair and their offspring from multiple seasons, there is little aggression. Every hunt is a lesson. Pups learn to swim early, often within 2 months of birth, but they spend many more learning how to stalk, flush, and corner prey under the guidance of older siblings and parents. Beneath the surface, the world is transformed. Visibility shrinks to a few meters. Light refracts in strange patterns, and sound becomes muffled and distorted. But the otter is perfectly adapted to this environment. Its nostrils and ears close automatically when submerged. Its webbed feet and muscular tail allow bursts of acceleration that make it capable of outmaneuvering even the most agile prey. The eyes are positioned to scan both above and below simultaneously, and its long, sensitive vibrissae, whiskers, detect the faintest of vibrations, turning the chaos of moving water into a readable map of direction and distance. A school of cichlids, startled by the sudden approach, scatters into submerged roots. But one fish lags behind, separated from the group by milliseconds of hesitation. An otter veers sharply, executing a tight underwater turn, and closes the distance. The strike is swift. Jaws clamp down on the fish with a snap, crushing its spine. It is brought to the surface, shaken once, and swallowed head first. The others continue, fanning out in a loose arc, their movements rehearsed over years of shared hunting. But not every hunt is so tidy. In these waters, size is not the only form of danger. Electric eels can deliver jolts powerful enough to stun a large mammal. Piranhas, though exaggerated in folklore, are still capable of inflicting serious injuries if cornered. And caimans lurking near the banks pose a genuine threat. Otters have been recorded mobbing small caimans when defending pups or food sources, using coordinated lunges and rapid bites to harass and confuse their reptilian rivals. While rarely fatal for either party, these encounters underscore the otter's willingness to assert dominance even against formidable opponents. Fish are their primary prey, especially carrakins, catfish, and cichlids, but their diet is far from narrow. Crustaceans are pried from under stones and roots. Occasionally, juvenile anacondas are dragged from shallows and killed, though such events are rare and carry risks. Unlike solitary predators that specialize in a particular kind of ambush or terrain, the giant otter's versatility is rooted in collaboration. One flushes, another blocks, a third intercepts. The prey is not overwhelmed by strength alone, but by the impossibility of escape from a team that communicates in real time across multiple vectors. On land, the otters remain agile but cautious. They haul out to rest groom and raise pups in dens dug into riverbanks. These burrows, often camouflaged by vegetation, contain multiple chambers and escape tunnels, a necessity in a habitat that can flood unpredictably or attract unwelcome guests. The social grooming that takes place here is not just hygienic, but essential to maintaining bonds within the group. It is common to see pairs twining together, chirping softly, or juveniles piling onto one another in playful wrestling matches that reinforce hierarchy and coordination. Their fur, thick and velvety, provides insulation, but also a vulnerability. Pollution and oil contamination in waterways reduce its water-repellent quality, increasing the risk of hypothermia and skin disease. Because of this, the giant otter is a sentinel species. Its health directly reflects the health of its aquatic environment. Once widespread across tropical South America, its populations have declined drastically due to habitat degradation, hunting for pelts, and human disturbance. Though protected in most countries today, it remains endangered, with fragmented populations confined to increasingly isolated regions. Researchers have begun using camera traps and acoustic monitoring to map otter territories and social patterns, revealing unexpected nuances in group structure and behavior. Some groups show fluid membership, suggesting a flexibility that may help survival in changing environments. Others display site fidelity, returning to the same den systems year after year. These findings suggest that, like wolves or elephants, giant otters are more cognitively complex than once assumed, not only capable of cooperation, but of learning, adapting, and remembering. Even with their playful reputation, they remain undeniably lethal. Their teeth, similar in design to those of other mustelids, are built to puncture and shear. Their bites are quick and repetitive, designed for dispatching prey efficiently. The sounds they make may be charming to human ears, but to their quarry, they signal a sudden and unavoidable end. For fish in these rivers, the splash of an otter's dive is as final as the snap of a jaguar's jaws in the jungle. As the sun leans westward, the otters retreat to a shaded bank, their bellies full, their coats slick from hours of swimming. One rolls onto its back, paddling lazily, while another dozes in the shallows, eyelids fluttering. But even in rest, the group remains alert. A splash upstream triggers a low bark and heads rise in unison. Nothing approaches, but the tension remains briefly, like a taut line that slowly slackens. Then calm returns. Here in the labyrinth of rivers and oxbow lakes, where the surface masks the battles below, the Amazonian giant otter remains undisputed in its domain, not through size, stealth, or venom, but through unity. A predator shaped not by isolation, but by family. In the slow-moving waters of the Amazon floodplain, where sunlight filters through layers of algae and tannin-rich silt, turns everything below the surface a muted bronze, something vast rests unseen beneath the lily-choked shallows. It lies beneath floating mats of vegetation, wrapped in lazy coils, motionless but aware. The green anaconda, Eunectes murinus, occupies its realm with no haste, no urgency. This is a predator whose success depends not on pursuit, but on timing. A calculation of distance, opportunity, and leverage delivered with explosive force from a body built for silence and suffocation. At first glance, the setting offers little to suggest threat. A capybara grazes along the marshy edge, its thick feet sinking slightly into the mud as it clips aquatic grass. Kingfishers dart overhead in flashes of blue and white, skimming across the surface. Frogs call from reed beds in rhythmic pulses, and dragonflies hover in shafts of heat rising from still water. Nothing screams danger, but the danger is there, coiled in the soft sludge just beneath the capybara's reflection. The snake's nostrils and eyes barely breach the surface, forming a near horizontal line adapted perfectly for ambush. Like a crocodilian, it watches from just below, its presence hidden by stillness and an evolutionary mastery of concealment. The green anaconda is the heaviest snake in the world. While not the longest, that title belongs to the reticulated python. Its girth and density make it a reptilian leviathan. Females, often much larger than males, can reach lengths of 7 meters or more and weigh in excess of 200 kilograms. Yet despite this bulk, it moves through water with a fluid grace that defies its size. The body, draped in olive-green scales blotched with black rosettes, glides between submerged roots and driftwood with minimal disturbance. On land, it is slow, cumbersome, and vulnerable to overheating. But in water, it is transformed, buoyant, agile, and lethal. The strike, when it comes, is not theatrical. It is a burst of power honed to a single function. The snake launches forward, jaws wide, and sinks its recurved teeth into the shoulder of the capybara before the mammal can fully register the danger. The response is immediate. The capybara thrashes, squealing, sending sprays of mud and water skyward in a frenzy of panic. But the snake does not rely on venom. It doesn't need to. The body coils, massive loops of muscle stacking one atop the other, and with each breath the capybara exhales, the snake tightens. This isn't bone-breaking force, it is suffocating compression, perfectly timed to match and exploit the movements of the lungs and diaphragm. As the coils cinch tighter, oxygen is denied, blood flow is restricted, and within minutes, the struggle ceases. Constrictors do not kill quickly, but efficiently. The anaconda senses the cessation of movement not through vision, but through pressure. It knows when the job is done. Then, with the same calculated patience it used in the ambush, it uncoils and begins the process of consumption. The capybara is rotated slowly, methodically, until its head aligns with the open jaws. The snake's flexible skull, connected by stretchable ligaments, expands around the body. Its teeth, curved backward, anchor and pull the prey inward with each muscular contraction of the throat. It is not swallowing in the human sense, it is engulfing, slowly drawing the carcass deeper with every undulation. The process may take over an hour. Once the capybara is fully inside, the anaconda will find shelter, perhaps a hollow log, a dense bank, or submerged roots, and remain motionless for days or weeks, digesting. Unlike many predators that feed frequently to sustain high metabolic demands, Anacondas can go weeks or even months without eating after a large meal. Their digestion is internal and intensive, powered by a cocktail of strong stomach acids that break down bone, fur, and muscle alike. Nothing is wasted. The energy extracted fuels the snake not just for survival, but for growth. As ectotherms, their energy use is low when inactive, and they invest heavily in growth, reproduction, and longevity. A mature female may only eat a few large meals a year but still reproduce successfully. Their reproductive behaviors are no less remarkable. During the breeding season, multiple males may converge on a single female, forming what herpetologists call a breeding ball, a slow-motion, three-dimensional knot of twisting, competing bodies in water or on land. The female remains largely passive, while males use their cloacal spurs, small vestigial legs left over from evolutionary ancestors, to stimulate and position themselves. The event may last hours or even days, and often the largest male wins, though not always. After successful copulation, the female can carry up to 80 developing embryos internally before giving birth to live young, an adaptation that protects the offspring from predation during the vulnerable incubation stage. The neonates emerge fully formed, independent, and immediately capable of hunting small prey. Though feared and mythologized in equal measure, green anacondas pose little threat to humans under normal circumstances. Most documented interactions end with the snake retreating or remaining still. Rare cases of conflict, especially in remote regions, often stem from provocation or entrapment. Far more frequently, anacondas fall victim to human encroachment, drained wetlands, pollution, or persecution based on fear. Despite their cryptic nature, they are sensitive to ecological disruption. As apex ambush predators, they rely on intact riparian habitats and stable populations of large prey. Fragmented or degraded waterways reduce both, pushing them into increasingly marginal areas. And yet, when conditions are right, they remain one of the Amazon's most formidable hunters. Their role in the ecosystem is less visible than a jaguar's or a harpy eagle's, but no less critical. By regulating populations of large aquatic and semi-aquatic animals, anacondas help maintain ecological equilibrium in waterways that serve as lifelines for countless species. Their impact is slow, silent, and untraceable in the moment, but essential over time. Beneath the surface, the water calms, ripples fade. A few feathers drift past from a frightened bird's hasty escape. Somewhere upstream, a caiman barks in agitation. But here, near the muddy bend where roots claw into sediment and shadows stretch into the reeds, there is only stillness once more. The snake has disappeared, drawn into the depths by the weight of its meal and the design of its life. It will not move far. It does not need to. The green anaconda does not claim territory with sound or spectacle. It claims it by waiting, perfectly still, perfectly patient, and then by removing something from the food chain without a trace. No footprints, no bones, no blood trail. Just a ripple that fades into still water, a silence shaped by muscle and timing, an apex predator, not of motion, but of certainty.